This is the download from Sounds Profitable, your daily source for the essential news in the business of podcasting. I'm Gavin Gaddis. Here's what you need to know for today, Monday, October 27th. First up, brands are paying more for ads that do less. Shutterstock's 2025 Creative Impact Report finds marketing spend jumped 33% from 2023 to 2024, but the effect on purchase intent only increased 17%. This leaves a 12% so-called impact gap that seems to be growing over time, as the report finds a further 8% of that gap grew through the first 8 months of the year. Shutterstock Director of Creative Strategy and Insights, Cal Roberts, says brands aren't keeping pace with behavioral changes to customer bases. And in losing sight of who their core audience is, they're spending more time casting wider nets that return fewer hits. Relevance and authenticity are the name of the game. Oxford Road's recent Orbit Top 15 podcast measured by ad performance report shows that especially true in podcasting, as some of the most widely agreed upon biggest podcasts don't crack the top 15 shows that are actually converting sales. Shows with hyper-mobilized and engaged audiences are the ones actually getting brands the biggest bang for their buck. Where one would expect Joe Rogan to sit at the top of the pile, instead, Oxford Road found tabletop role-playing live stream turned broadcast to podcast series Critical Role. Next up, could the next hit podcaster be ... your CFO? It's not often I get headlines that have like dog bites man energy, and I'm having fun today. Morning Brew has announced a new podcast from their business-to-business arm, HR Brew. The new podcast, People Person, is hosted by Kate Knoll, Senior Vice President of People Operations at Morning Brew. This follows both the trend within Morning Brew itself. For example, their podcast, Per My Last Email, features both the Chief of Staff and Director of Consumer Revenue, and also a trend occurring in wider B2B podcasting itself. Executives sitting down in front of mics instead of influencers or journalists. A move that makes sense. If the goal is to connect your business to another business and you're using a podcast to do that, why introduce a middleman who would build that parasocial relationship for you when you could build that parasocial relationship with the company itself and do that vital connection building yourself? Next up, some creators say brands are delaying their holiday deals later than ever this year. Now, to be clear, deals in that headline means with influencers, not for TVs during Black Friday. Influencer agency Buttermilk tells Digiday that with factors like changing tariffs, economic performance, and uncertainty about how things will go with the upcoming American version of TikTok, brands are holding out on committing their holiday budgets this holiday season. Some content creators report a marked decrease in the number of brand deals and promotions of sales compared to last year. Brand marketers are reportedly pushing for syndication and cross-platform posting of short-form content instead of just buying a TikTok or just buying a YouTube short, which to me sounds like they could really benefit from podcasting, where you get the best of everything. And next up on our next story, how to harness video and social to grow audio. The National Association of Broadcasters New York Radio and Podcast Interactive Forum recently brought together creators and executives from the world of podcasting and radio. Backpocket Studios founder Ben Dickstein recently spoke to the value of acknowledging a clip can be its own piece of interesting content, not part of a whole. The History Channel Audio First podcast, History This Week, generates clips by treating them like a documentary would any voiceover, editing together montages of archival footage and photos relevant to the topic. Context and presentation are just as important, if not more so, than getting the message of the podcast itself across. Odyssey Senior Director, Podcast Revenue Partnerships, Kate Rose, added that social is less of a way to grow an audience and more of a way to keep in touch with one's audience on platforms they're actively using. And for our final top story, is YouTube's TV viewership plateauing? TubeFilter looks at new data from Nielsen's The Gauge report. YouTube got a larger share of TV traffic than any other content provider during the months of this year and last year. In July of 2025, the platform hit 13.4% share of TV traffic. But in August, things ticked downward for the first time in years, hitting 13.1%, which was then followed by 12.6% in September. The downward trend has left YouTube back where it was in May of this year. One theory is back to school has impacted screen time for kids who used YouTube a lot while on break. But that theory struggles a bit because there isn't necessarily a summer bump in 2024's data. As for the rest of the news, John Allen, known as Mr. Ballin on YouTube, is moving to SiriusXM from Wondery. The new multi-year deal with SiriusXM Media gives exclusive audio advertising rights to his flagship podcast, the Mr. Ballin Podcast, Strange, Dark, and Mysterious, as well as the rights to other shows on his podcast network. Blue Wire has 9 new podcasts coming to their slate, including 2 previously hosted on The Ringer. New senior leadership has been announced at Adalicious post-Audio Boom acquisition, including Gemma O'Brien and Sean Wilson being appointed joint vice presidents, UK sales. Laura Elliott has been promoted to director, sales operations. The Athletic and Amazon have partnered to launch a new video series dubbed The Athletic Show, with weekly 30-minute episodes made available to Fire TV customers earlier than they go out for The Athletic. Industry pundit Nicholas Qua dropped by Here and Now with host Scott Tong to discuss the evolution of the podcast industry, and Podcast Nation has onboarded video-first podcast The Stod Guy. Be sure to check out the links to every article mentioned right in your podcast listening app, thanks to the handy-dandy link in today's show notes, which will take you straight to today's episode on Sounds Profitable's website. Or you can go to soundsprofitable.com, mouse over to the download section, and see every episode and every link I've ever talked about. As usual, the download is written and produced by myself, Brian Barletta, and Tom Webster. For Sounds Profitable, I'm Gavin Gaddis. I'll see you tomorrow.